So today's scripture comes from Second Kings, and it's a passage about Elijah with the J, which is the hairier man, and the teacher to Elijah with the S, which is bald. And because of their proximity, because of their relationship and their bond with each other, Elijah was able to receive the blessing from his teacher, from his mentor. So chapter 2, verse 9 says, when they came to the other side, Elijah said to Elijah, tell me what I can do for you before I am taken away. And Elijah replied, let me inherit a double share of your spirit and become your successor. You have asked a difficult thing, Elijah replied, but if you see me when I am taken away, then you will get your request, but if not, then you won't. And they were walking along and talking, and suddenly a chariot of fire appeared, drawn by a horse of fire. It drove between the two men, separating them, and Elijah was carried by the whirlwind into heaven. Elijah saw it and cried out, my father, I see the chariots and the charioteers of Israel. And as they disappeared from the sight, Elijah tore off his clothes in distress. And then he went to go pick up Elijah's fallen cloak. And so this is where the blessings began. He was able to receive the blessing because of the close proximity, because of the relationship that he had to his teacher and his mentor. And this led to Elijah doing amazing things, some blessings, really doing God's work in the community. In chapter 4, you'll see where there was a widow that began to cry out and said to Elijah that my husband passed and he served. He believed in you just as much as you believed in him. He had served the Lord, and now there is debt to be paid, and they are going to take my son as slaves if I cannot pay this debt. And because she had proximity and relationship to a man, right, of authority that really had a calling on him for God, he was able to provide her with a solution. And God just really came in and did a work. He said, what do you have in your home? And that's when she told him that she had the oil. And so he provided a solution for her. He said, go to your neighbor's house, ask for jars to fill these up, and then you will have enough to pay your debt and live off the rest. And it says here in verse 3, it says, and Elijah said, borrow as many jars as you can from your friends and neighborhood. Then go into the house with your sons, shut the door, pour the olive oil in your flask, in your jars, setting each one aside when it is filled. So they did just as they was told. Then it says, when she told the man of God what had happened, he said, now sell the oil and pay your debts and live off the rest. So I just encourage you that in this season, that it is so important for you to be in proximity with individuals, right? Not because you want something, but because there's a reciprocal relationship. Why I use chapter 4 is because she said, my husband served the Lord along with you, right? Meaning they had a reciprocal relationship, not she came to him because she's in need and she know he could provide it, right? Is they had a reciprocal relationship and she was in close proximity. So I just encourage you that in this season, if you're an individual where misery loves company and it seemed like misery keeps following you, change your circle. If it seems like gossip keeps following you, then that means you have an ear for gossip. You may say, now why did they tell me that? Because you're listening. They're tickling your ear. You have a sensation for gossip. You do. And so I just encourage you in this season that you are really paying attention to who you're in proximity with. You should be out networking, being in proximity with individuals where there's a reciprocal relationship. No more saying, well, they're of this status. If they sell books, volunteer to sit at their table and have a reciprocal relationship and build a mentorship. Don't just go after looking for a relationship where you can have a gain and not want to reciprocate, really this season, buckle down and get around people that can elevate you, that can uplift you, that can provide solutions. No more being on the phone where you two are just bouncing around how bad life is going, right? It's time for solutions. It's time for us to gain a relationship where proximity and abundance is in the conversation, because there is truly power in proximity. And that is the good news.